What I realize now is when I was 18, I had no concept of what it would mean to go to a school that costs more and what I would end up paying when I graduate.
It can affect a lot of choices, like when to buy a home or whether to buy a home, getting married, having kids, saving for retirement, and saving for their own kids' education.
I think people are oftentimes having to sacrifice maybe having a more intellectual or community building job because of that.
I have $20,000 in debt.
$40,000.
I'm $150,000 in debt.
All right, they're the numbers nobody wants to really embrace here, but that's some of the realities. And just talking about that, the average public school debt, more than $21,000. The average private school debt, nearly $30,000. And the percentage of students graduating with student loans for both public and private, about 61%. And frankly, I'm surprised the number's not even higher on that. But this number jumped out at me. If you're between 18 and 24, that age bracket spends nearly 30% of their monthly income just on debt repayment. And that number probably is going to go even higher when you factor where these trends are going. If somebody says to you, President, hey, I'm not so sure me walking out of this college with a philosophy degree or some liberal arts degree makes a lot of sense, do you give the same answer you might have given 10 years ago? Do you say, hey, Junior, you're right, go into math and sciences?
No, I'd actually give the same answer I gave 10 years ago, because all of the, while I understand the movement is to career education, that is that at the end of the education you get a job, the studies also show that over their lifetime our now college graduates will have 7 jobs, a couple of which have never been invented and yet. And I believe that a good liberal arts education, whether it be philosophy or something else, which will train you to analyze, to critique, will be the best base for your success.
Now you're saying to me, your kid, I don't want to date you, even Greg could come say, hey, you know what? I'm thinking of majoring in philosophy. Right. You're going to stop him and say, yes, go at him? Or you said, what are you doing? You know,
I would
get your nose in the science books here and get an engineering degree or something.
Well, you know, my father wanted me to be engineer, and there would have been bridges falling down all over the country. So I actually, if you study philosophy and what happens to kids who take philosophy, and it's an unfair analysis because kids who are more academically suited tend to take philosophy. They go into all sorts of things, especially law. It's great training to go to a law district.
Mr. President, number one, let me just say this. I'm thankful for the state university system.
He always does.
No, I'm serious. No, I'm deadly serious about this.
Yeah.
I'm deadly serious about this because I'm a graduate of the state university system at Cortland. And if not for the state university system, I'm the first one from my family to go to college. I would not have been able to attend. But here's the question. And I'm thankful because to any parent that's watching us right now looking at sending their kid to college, they know that if you consider the state university or CUNY, but let's say the state university, you're looking at about $16,000 roughly if the campus has a dorm. Right. Versus if you pull out the same book for a private institution, $50,000, $60,000. Right. So one, are you seeing at SUNY Purchase a load of applications coming your way now that never would have in the past? And two, please explain to us, why is college so expensive? Is it simply because that they can get away with this at these private institutions?
You see, he didn't listen to our conversation. That always happens to me. No, they don't even at the table pay attention to us.
I'll answer the second one first. Colleges are expensive in most respects because they're heavily labor intensive. Most of the cost of running a college is faculty and staff. And salaries of faculty and staff go up in accordance with inflation, building costs, and so forth. I think the unnecessary costs are started by the wealthy institutions, the Harvards and Yales of the world, where we build climbing walls and we have dormitories and golf courses and dormitories that are better than the room they came from at home.
So because they can.
Because they can, and that then trickles down into every other institution. So I think part of this we need to rein in, and I think finally the leading institutions in the country, the wealthy ones, are looking at the question, is this the right way to spend our money? On the other hand, I would point out that, as you said, SUNY and CUNY, and we're seeing increases in applications in the liberal arts side of our college. We are not seeing them in the arts side because we've always competed with the privates in that area, so we already had those applications. But
Yeah,
what
but
we're
SUNY
seeing,
Perks is one
interestingly,
of the top arts and performing arts programs in the country here. I'm curious, are kids' decisions about what they're going to do when they graduate changed by the fact they're saddled with so much debt? I mean, you go back a generation or so, somebody might want to go into Peace Corps or go into social work or whatever else, normal track out, and the parent says, time out here. You know, you're walking out of here with X tens of thousands of debt. You got to start paying that off. You don't want to be carrying that into your 40s and beyond. Are post-college decisions being driven by how much they owe?
absolutely.
Yeah.
There's just one more point I wanted to make, which is obviously there's an enormous economic benefit still to graduating from college, but if there are groups of people that are cut off from that opportunity, we talk a lot about wealth gaps, we talk a lot about income gaps on this show in society overall. That's how you create a permanent wealth gap. You create a permanent underclass by not giving those kids access to the tools that would get them out of that position. They come from a family that's got bad credit. They come from a family that's got, you know, very little savings and little access
You're
to
preaching to the
loans.
choir, but try selling that politically today. I mean, it's going to be the fight on what you're going to cut. And the easiest thing to cut is, I mean, look what Mitt Romney said on the campaign trail, right? Well, maybe you should shop around.
Oh, now that was common sense to me. That actually, I didn't see that as a big, oh my gosh moment.
Offensive.
That made
That's offensive.
That made perfect sense to me.
What Romney
Shop
said
around.
was offensive.
Find a
For
tuition
somebody
that you can
who's had
afford.
a silver spoon in his mouth his entire life, where his father was a governor, to say to people like me, "Oh, shop around and find a cheaper
then,
college."
so should somebody
you
like
shop
you,
around,
should
Mr.
somebody
Romney.
like you
Let
and me,
Daddy not pay for your
Dominic,
education.
Dominic, should somebody like you and me, we need a business shirt for a meeting. Are you and I going to go to Bergdorf, or are we going to go to we're going to go to Macy's? Okay, then that's shopping around. There's nothing offensive about that. That's common sense.
But
Dominic,
he's had a silver spoon in his mouth his entire life,
but-
and how dare he lecture the rest of us?
He didn't lecture. He said shop around. It was
So why didn't he shop around? Why didn't he go to the best institutions?
It was just sounded like common sense to me.
because his daddy had the money.
See, Thomas, this is what happens when I just stir it up here a little bit so they go on
I
from
said
here.
4 words, Mr. President.
Let's please not drag this poor guy into our private hell, all right?
I'm actually going to go back to my legal career and try to mediate.
Exactly.
Here's my question. What I'm curious about is there not maybe potentially a new normal that we have to look at here? Because you said another fascinating thing there, which was the idea that, you know, there are jobs that have yet to be created, for example, yet to be invented. And now, coming out of this recession, there are jobs that some people say are never going to come back, that recession expedited the elimination. Is there not a new normal on a whole bunch of levels? Like when they talk about credit scores, there's a new normal now. There's not a whole lot of people walking around with 790 credit now, you know. And so I'm wondering is you know, the idea of where people are going to go to school, what they should major in, and potentially is, you know, if entrepreneurialism is going to get this country to another level, if we're going to become a nation of entrepreneurs and shopkeepers again, at least more of us, is not an associate's degree, is not a community college, you know, maybe going to be the new normal for some people to get them where they have to go?
The community college degree is what used to be the high school diploma.
That's
I
interesting.
think it is the required norm for a job. And the college degree, the 4-year degree, is what used to be the 2-year degree. And that's why you see so many master's programs. I think there is a new norm, and I think there are many jobs that will never come back. And of course, we all understand the issues of technology replacing labor and what that means, why you see these huge unemployment numbers for uneducated
And we
people.
got to wrap up. My last question is, I see this going one of two ways, and I don't know how it ends. One is people that are just barely getting their kid to college and just barely making the payments soon won't. And they were never considered anything but solid middle class. Do they just look on the outside in, or is there enough of an uproar in this country to say, time out? I played by the rules. I did this the right way. I should be able to send my kid to school, and then the metrics change and the Fed step in and close the gap. Which way does it go?
I believe that this country will have a crisis, will see a crisis in this issue, that our leaders will finally have to again start leading, and we'll start reinvesting in higher education, because if we don't, we will fail as a nation. Democracy requires an educated population.
Your lips, God's ears. President Schwartz, thank you so much.
Thank
I
you very
appreciate a
much.
few minutes.